Hello and welcome back to episode 4 of Magna Indica. I have with me Rishabh, I am Devika, and we're back to discuss a very important issue. This is not something that can have an overnight plan, Rishabh, but we've been discussing it on our channel for many years now. We've seen some progress made on certain fronts, but a lot remains to be done. What we're talking about is, of course, the reintegration of PoK and possibly Gilgit Baltistan back where it belongs, back to India. Like I said, this is a complicated issue,
Hmm.
and to understand it, we have to go back to the history. If you can begin by telling our viewers what happened back in 1947 and then subsequently, what is the position today?
Absolutely right. We have to understand it. All of us have a vague understanding, but a little bit of context is important to any discussion regarding the reintegration of POK. And what we want to have in this conversation, and what we've been trying to do for some time, is to look at practical, common-sensical, step-by-step approaches, falling short of what the military plan is. Eventually, there has to be a military plan of some sort. Okay, the military plan is not an invasion of POK. What that plan is not the scope of this conversation. Is everything else barring
Hmm.
that military plan, which I'm assuming exists somewhere if required, okay? But barring stopping at that line, what is everything can do? So let's put this thing into perspective, okay? The 14th of August, 1947 is when Pakistan says is their independence. 15th August is Indian Independence Day. Devika, less than a week later, they are already planning the invasion of Jammu and Kashmir.
Hmm.
Okay, these are now matter of historical records, records that you've had that have come from the British Army archives. Okay, that shows that the because remember the army was still under the British. It is only when Butcher, Auchinleck, when these people left and then Indian Army commander took over and the Pakistani Army commander took over on the other side. Until then, the overall CNC is still a British man. So the British Army records exist on what they were discussed, what briefing was held. Which was happening on the other side of this newly created border. There is partition taking place at that point of time. Okay, in fact, that's the date of partition, so there's havoc in other parts of the country. The Pakistanis are not really considering in that point of time that what is the effort they need to make sure that partition goes off smoothly, how to protect lives. They are thinking Kashmir
Hmm.
within the first 1 week. Okay. So what's the strategy? The strategy is ironically rather similar to what they've subsequently done for the next 80 years.
Hmm.
So it's very simple. Remember, this is a different era, different context, different time. Okay, just like at that point of time, there is no Gandhinagar port in Gujarat because Karachi is India's port.
Yeah.
Okay, similarly, there Islamabad doesn't exist, and if you can, the Islamabad, okay, which has been created, was later built on a Buddhist, ancient Buddhist site, is just a few dozen kilometers from Kashmir, from Jammu. Okay, the closest cantonment town, cantonment city is Rawalpindi.
Hmm.
Okay, so they are already planning, and their strategy is first we blockade the roads. Okay. Now, the context is this: India is independent, Pakistan is being created, Hari Singh is trying to hold out. Okay. He's making the biggest mistake of his life and probably will go down in history for having spent those few weeks prevaricating.
Hmm.
Okay, and messing up the futures of millions of people because of his prevarication. Okay, and the consequences we're still bearing. So Hari Singh is prevaricating. Okay, but under the British, there is a concept, and they are clear about it, like it or not. They have said that look, there were three ways the British ruled India: the provinces, the presidencies, and the princely states. So you have the provinces, the United Provinces, the central provinces, UP, United Province, central provinces, what became Madhya Pradesh. Then you have the presidencies, Madras, uh, Bombay, Calcutta. Then there were the princely states, of which there were 540, 550 odd princely states. So the British had something called the elapsing of British suzerainty, which means the paramountcy of the crown, as they described, okay, was that the King of England, who was Emperor of India,
Hmm.
is no longer Emperor of India, which means that the Maharajas, the kings of the princely states, are by de facto independent and have a free will on what they want to do. They can either choose to join India, choose to join Pakistan, or they can choose to remain independent. Okay.
Yeah.
Hari Singh, for some reason, was tempted into prevarication over this particular clause. The presidencies and provinces were divided and partitioned on the basis of, well, you can argue whether architects and lawyers should have been drawing the lines, but nonetheless, it was supposed to be on the basis of uh, population percentage in terms of religion. Okay, so the context is India has just been created, Pakistan has just been created. Hari Singh is holding out. He's
Hmm.
prevaricating. Okay, the Pakistanis are planning what was later goes down in history as Operation Gulbarg within the first week. Number one, they want to blockade the roads. Okay, blockade the roads means communications, transportations, supply, food, everything gets into stress for the administrators of Maharaja Hari Singh. Okay, then
Okay.
immediately they are doing the same thing which they do today. Start sending in 10, 20 small groups of people. Okay, some of them from the Pakistani military. Okay, some of them from the 20, 30 odd Pashtun tribes. Many of them who have received military training or have retired from the military. Many of whom have served under the British Army in World War II. Okay, you have the smuggling in of arms and ammunition in small amounts to create caches.
Hmm.
Okay, so the strategy was threefold. Okay, we will start a rebellion from within Jammu and Kashmir. An invasion of these so-called tribals will take place from without, which is from Rawalpindi, that side across the Jhelum River axis. And simultaneously, we will receive British support because the Gilgit Scouts under Major Brown, and I'll come and discuss this in just a bit, okay, are going to hit from Gilgit Baltistan. In Gilgit Baltistan, the British are going to sort out for us. They are going to hand over. We just have to make sure that these particular areas of Jammu and Kashmir on the road to Srinagar, and
Hmm.
their target is Srinagar. Their target is not Muzaffarabad. Okay, that's what they got left with. Their target is Srinagar. Okay, so they're blockading the roads. They're smuggling in small groups of 10, 20, okay, who are then bringing arms and building ammunition caches with them. Okay, simultaneously, the weapons, the command and control, the tactics, the intelligence, the signals, which is communications, all of this is being done by the Pakistani army. So the Pakistani army is managing all of this.
Okay.
Okay. They are planning for a mutiny of the Muslim members of the Maharaja's army. Okay. And we'll discuss this in just a bit because this happened. Meanwhile, it's another conversation of what happened in Chitral. Okay. Where the legal dubiousness of that move by the ruler of Chitral in acceding to Pakistan, but simultaneously means the rebellion of the Chitral Scouts.
Hmm.
Okay, so you're creating groups who have already infiltrated in civilian garb, and they have now created arms and ammunition, and they are trying to stoke mutiny and foment. You want a mutiny of the Maharaja's forces. You're getting help from the Chitral Scouts. You're getting help. You're going to get help from the Gilgit Scouts. Okay, because the Gilgit agency is going to be now overrun by the treachery of a British serving officer, a very junior British serving officer, but nonetheless, okay. And then you're going to intimidate the population, okay. By intimidate is a polite word.
Hmm.
You are going to create terror, havoc, and fear in the local population, okay. And we know what happened in Mirpur, okay. And in fact, I'm going to read out a particular segment of a couple of books that were written about it long time ago by people who were witness to events at that point of time, okay. Now, at this point of time, Devika, Liaquat Ali Khan is Prime Minister of Pakistan. Okay. Uh, Now, Liaquat Ali Khan finds a lieutenant, a key person in Jinnah's entourage.
Hmm.
Okay. And this person is tasked with the specific objective. He's a Muslim Punjabi. He's tasked with the specific objective to go into Jammu and Kashmir and stoke mutiny and rebellions. Okay. His name was Mia Iftikaruddin. All right. He was sent in by Liaquat, and his primary area of operation was Poonch. Okay, so now what is happening? By end August, you're starting the planning. You're setting in the groups of infiltrators. You're building up the numbers in Kashmir, in Jammu, and you're building up the arms and ammunition. You're setting up the mutinies. Now is the time to hit. By the first week of October is when it all starts off. Okay,
Okay.
and the mutinies start. The disruption start. The blockade start.
Hmm.
And now they are going for the jugular. And of course, the jugular is Srinagar. You capture the Maharaja, you capture Srinagar. That's the airport. That's all the main routes leading to the capital. That's it. Game is over. Okay. Now the question then is, do you succeed? October 22nd is when the official Pak tribal invasion begins.
Hmm.
Okay, by this time, you already had the capture of areas like Rawalkot. In Poonch, you have captured Poonch city because a mutiny, a rebellion has occurred there. You've already infiltrated enough people over there. You have secured the Jhelum River crossing. The Jhelum River just runs of what is today the uh, what would be the IB. The Jhelum River runs just west of that. So it's a
Hmm.
crucial crossing point if you're trying to get in from Rawalpindi, okay, at that point of time. So Thora, Rawalkot, Poonch, Jhelum River crossings, now you've established yourselves, okay. Then
Hmm.
on 22nd of October, you go in. Now on 22nd October, okay, they immediately capture Muzaffarabad, okay. Now they're headed to Srinagar. That means through Baramulla, through Uri, okay, on the
Okay.
road to Srinagar. They make one strategic and tactical error, rather tactical error, is that they slow down to loot Baramulla, okay.
Yes, the
They do,
tribals.
yes, they slow down to loot Baramulla. They try to loot the civilian population, and they looted the civilian population.
Hmm.
And I'll give you an example of that in just a bit, okay. This is when the Maharaja of Jammu and Kashmir, Hari Singh, finally has an epiphany and his prevarication stops, okay. He is informed that within 2 days they'll be here in Srinagar.
Hmm.
The game's over. The Muslim members of the armed forces of Jammu and Kashmir have already mutinied.
Hmm.
He gives an order to his commander, army commander, and we've recently interviewed his daughter. Okay, very moving conversation it was. Brigadier Rajinder Singh
Yes.
was commander of the state forces of Jammu and Kashmir. Brigadier Rajinder Singh is only left with only 150 men.
Hmm.
Okay, and I remember the order from memory. Okay, Brigadier Rajinder Singh is ordered to hold the enemy at Uri at all costs to the last man.
Hmm.
So he goes down, and you know what his daughter told us, told me in an interview just a few days ago or a few weeks ago. Uh, he came home after he received the order, had dinner with the family, okay, and his wife knew what was happening. So she asked, "What do you want us to do?" And he said, "You'll know what to do."
Yes.
Okay, and he uh, walked out of the house, grabbed his hat, he grabbed his baton, and he walked out of the house. And his daughter said he was whistling the tune of the charge of the Light Brigade as he walked out of the house. And he was walking to his death. He did as he was ordered. They
Hmm.
fought to the last man and the last bullet. He died 4 days later on the 26th of October, okay, in a rice field in on that Baramulla Uri axis after having denied the raiders, okay, access to Srinagar. He delayed them long enough because on October 26th is when Maharaja Hari Singh finally signs the Instrument of Accession. VP Menon, who was Secretary of States of the who was Secretary of the States Ministry. This
Hmm.
is a ministry that no longer exists.
Yeah.
It was a ministry under Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and VP Menon was the man who was, the bureaucrat in charge of the integration of the Indian states under Patel. Okay, so VP Menon flies to Srinagar, okay, and he is the one who brings that instrument of accession back here to
Hmm.
Delhi. Mountbatten, by this point of time, is already Governor General of India. He's moved from Viceroy of India, and for some reason, we've appointed him Governor General of India. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, so Mountbatten signs the instrument of accession on the 27th, but it's enforced from the enforcement date is seen as the 26th of October. Okay, so Rajinder Singh is dead, and the very famous story. I think Menon writes in his book. It's called the history of the integration of the Indian states that Maharaj Hari Singh told his ADC that after he asked for the Indian emergency assistance, that I'm going to take a nap.
Hmm.
Okay, there are some Indians coming to rescue me. If they come by this evening, please wake me up. If they don't come, please shoot me. Okay, so this is the atmosphere at this point of time. They've already smuggled in weapons, they've smuggled in arms, they've set up these basically cells within these cities. They've stoked a rebellion in the Maharaja's army. All the Muslim personnel have mutinied. They've stoked a rebellion in Poonch. They've sent in political agents to do that. They've captured Muzaffarabad. Okay, they've captured the crossings over the Jhelum River. Now they have gone in through Mirpur where they've done a massacre. In fact, let me just read out, since on the context of Mirpur, I promise I'll read it out. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, this is a book. It's called Forgotten Atrocities. And in this book, Forgotten Atrocities, written by a gentleman called B.K. Gupta, and let me just read a quote from it, and I'm quoting: "Some Hindus tried to leave Mirpur for Jammu by bus. The Pakistanis waylaid that bus on the way to Jhangar, robbed and killed all the passengers. They ordered the Hindu driver to return the bloody bus to Mirpur city, filled with dead bodies. Only 2,500 people out of 25,000 Hindus and Sikhs escaped. The Pakistanis ruthlessly kidnapped and butchered the remaining over 22,000 residents. The number of women abducted from Mirpur ran into thousands. The Pakistanis shamelessly paraded them and sold them in the bazaars of Rawalpindi. The barbarities that the Pakistani troops and Pathans committed upon civilians put to shame the worst orgies of rape and violence committed by the hordes of Genghis and Tamerlane."
Wow.
Uh, this is, as I mentioned, B.K. Gupta's Forgotten
Hmm.
Atrocities. Here is from V.P. Menon. Okay, this is about Baramulla. On 8th November, Indian forces occupied Baramulla. When the Indian troops entered the city, they found that it had been stripped by the tribesmen of its wealth and its women. Out of a normal population of 14,000, only 1,000 were left. The devastation by the raiders was indeed ghastly, reminiscent of Nadir Shah's sacking of Delhi. Okay,
Hmm.
these were people who were there at that time as these things were happening. Okay, so this is the context of events as they are unfolding on the military domain. Okay, now 26th of October, Maharaja Hari Singh has signed the instrument of accession. VP Menon has brought it to Delhi.
Yes.
Okay, uh, Mountbatten signs it. Okay, now officially Kashmir is part of the Union of India.
Yes.
Now we have no land access because the raiders are already on the road to Srinagar. The first troops that are sent, and we've done so many conversations on this, okay, is Lieutenant Colonel Devan Ranjit Rai. Okay, he was commanding, if I remember correctly, a battalion of the Sikh regiment. Okay, I think it was the first battalion, and he is airdropped onto Srinagar airport using Dakotas. You know, and one of the people, the pilots of the Dakotas, was a Biju Patnaik. Biju Patnaik is the father of Naveen Patnaik,
Yes.
who's and the Biju Janata Dal is named after him. So Biju Patnaik was had a pilot license. He could fly Dakotas. They flew them from Gurgaon, which is our
Hmm.
Palam Air Force Base, and got them to Srinagar. Their first task was to, of course, secure the Srinagar airport, which they managed to hold. If we did not have a airhead in Srinagar, the game was over.
Right.
Okay, so they got there just in time. They managed to get there just in time because of the supreme sacrifice of Brigadier Rajinder Singh, okay, who died on the road to Baramulla. They secured the airport, and Devika, at this point of time is when the Indian fight back begins.
Hmm.
Okay, and the Indian fight back, ladies and gentlemen, the commanding officer, okay, is Lieutenant General Cariappa. He later became the first Indian commander in chief of the Indian Army, later Field Marshal. One of his Cree frontline commanders is Lieutenant General Thimaiya, okay, very famous names in the iconography of India's army.
Hmm.
Now, Cariappa comes up with now very famous operations, okay? Operation Easy, okay? Operation Bison, okay? Operation Kipper. And this was the liberation of the occupied areas of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, as I
Yes.
mentioned, they've already moved into Muzaffarabad. Okay, they are into they're besieging Skardu. Okay, they have on the road to Srinagar through Uri, through Mirpur. Okay, they have made significant inroads, maybe a couple of days march away from Srinagar city itself. So this time he comes in, and thanks to Rajinder Singh, there he's able to get some time to establish an airhead with the Sikh regiment that goes in, and they begin now the fight back. Now, in the fight back, okay, we managed, Devika, at that point of time to shove these Pakistani invaders out of Kargil, out of Dras. We secured Leh, we secured Ladakh. Okay, in Matian we pushed them back. Okay, in Skardu there was a colonel by the name of Colonel Thapa. Colonel Thapa held Skardu with just 250 forces for 1 year. They kept attacking him. They kept attacking him. He did not let go. So
Yes.
you had a strong fortress in Skardu. Okay, you had liberated all these other Kargil, Dras, all the others areas. Okay, then of course the big ticket item happened where they dismantled these light tanks called the M5 Stuarts. Okay, they dragged them reassembled them, okay? Literally in a matter of few days converted what were jungle tracks
Hmm.
into motorable roads, okay? And they went for Zojila, okay? So
Yes.
now you've got Zojila, okay? You have you're holding out in Skardu. You have reclaimed the Poonch city where the rebellion started in the first place,
Hmm.
okay? You are doing really well for yourself, okay? This is happening. So now October of 1947 has now rolled on through the winter, okay? And now you're in the summer of 1948. In May 1948, the Pakistani army officially joins the fight. So far, they're saying it's not us,
Hmm.
okay? It's these invaders, these tribals, we don't know. Now they've officially joined the fight because they're on the defensive, okay?
Yes.
Now Rawalpindi is under potential threat,
Hmm.
okay? So now they're on the defensive. The Pakistani army in May 1948 joins, okay? Exactly 3, 4 months later, Jinnah is dead.
Yes.
Jinnah has got tuberculosis. He hasn't told anyone. In September of 1948, Jinnah is dead. Okay. Now again winter comes. So Timaya, Karyappa, they are making a plan to liberate what is left of Poonch, Mirpur, and Muzaffarabad. Okay, Gilgit, Baltistan.
So essentially, just three of those areas plus
Yeah,
Baltistan
Gilgit
at
and
that
and
point.
and and Gilgit Baltistan is another. I mentioned this at the beginning. Okay, so so the sliver of Jammu and Kashmir state, okay, that is called PoK. PoK is only these three areas:
Hmm.
Muzaffarabad, Mirpur, and in a bit of Western Poonch. Okay, everything else is Gilgit Agency, Baltistan Agency. Okay, now Gilgit Baltistan, which is the Gilgit Agency, has been delivered to the Pakistanis by the British.
Yes.
Okay, there's a newly commissioned officer by the name of Brown. Okay, Lieutenant and later Major Brown. Okay, he kills Qasar Khan. Okay, who was the Maharaja's representative, governor, assassinates him.
Hmm.
They were forces who were loyal to the Maharaja, okay, including scouts that were also killed. Okay, he then takes over the command of the Gilgit Scouts. He flies the Pakistani flag over the headquarters of the Gilgit Agency and accedes Gilgit Baltistan to the Pakistanis, okay, without a shot being fired. Okay, so he does murder, he does treachery, okay, considering that it's his commander in chief's boss who has just signed the instrument of accession.
Hmm.
Okay, so he does murder, treachery. So it's obviously well planned. Okay, that listen, the British will deliver this to you. You need to go capture this. Okay, meanwhile वहाँ से बस वहाँ पर rebellion हो जाएगा, ठीक है? और ले से हम स्कार्दू में घुस जाएंगे. So it's a very well thought out stratagem. Major Brown does all of this. Okay, 4 months later he gets a medal. Okay, and
Okay.
we've covered this in great detail. You can find my videos on that. Okay, so the
Hmm.
bottom line is that you are pushing them back,
Hmm.
and they are on the run. Now the Pakistani army is fighting, and they are really worried of how far you'll go, and you might have gone as far as Rawalpindi, okay, if need be. But now Jinnah is dead,
Hmm.
okay, and pressure is brought that Karyappa is ordered, and remember the context of what is going on, okay. India is formulating its constitution is not ready. Okay, Mountbatten for some reason is Governor General. Okay, uh, Auchinleck and Bucher who become the commander in chiefs. Okay, who are still there, and they along with Nehru tell Karyappa to stop. Okay, he's ordered to stop. Uh, in fact, some could argue that he initially defied some of the orders to at least gain tactical advantage on the ground.
Hmm.
Okay, but after a point he doesn't have the mandate and he stopped. Okay, so we mucked it up from then. Now,
Was it because after Jinnah's death, there was no perceived threat per se from
no,
Pakistan?
it was hubris. Okay, hubris means that when you come out, okay, of a movement, and it's understandable hubris why it can happen, but the consequences of the hubris, just like the consequences of Maharaja Hari Singh was hubris.
Hmm.
Okay, you know what? I think with hardly any forces, I can subsist as an independent country, okay, with between India and Pakistan when I know the Pakistanis are coming to get me.
Hmm.
Okay, it's hubris. Okay. Similarly, Hari Singh was guilty of it. At the same time, we'll have to accept that Jawaharlal Nehru was also guilty of it. Okay, it's what he expected.
Hmm.
What can you reasonably say? He said, look, the instrument of accession has been signed. It's a valid document. The chapter is closed. We will go to the international community, the British, the Americans, and the UN, and the UN will say, well, here's the legal matter on paper has been done. So now the Pakistani forces should withdraw.
Okay.
But that's the assumption that
Hmm.
the British and the Americans and all the others wanted to help you out, wanted to follow the legalese, wanted to respect your instrument of accession. They couldn't give two hoots. In fact, the British were complicit in the breakup of Jammu and Kashmir state and the handing over Gilgit agency, as I just explained under Major Brown, to
Yes.
the Pakistanis. Okay, so the British and Americans said, "Oh, this is disputed."
Hmm.
Okay, chapter closed. So it was hubris in internationalism, belief in internationalism, when belief should have been in real politics. Okay, we have what we hold. Okay, and we have the force of law. It has to be the force of law and the force of the ability to go in and claim it as your own. We took the force of law,
Hmm.
okay? We didn't have the ability or had the ability but stopped ourselves and we mucked it up. So where do we go from there, Devika? So this is the context which you're familiar with, which has been subject to conversations. This is a quick recap, okay? So we Cariappa is stopped, okay? Then what happens? You have the UN resolutions and all that, which which are now part of the very contentious history.
Hmm.
What we forget is that the developments that then happened in Kashmir were not done by the Pakistanis; they were done by the Chinese.
Yeah.
Because in '62, you suddenly wake up, okay, and in Aksai Chin, the Chinese have already built a road. They're not building it; they've already built it,
Hmm.
okay, because that is their only access to Tibet from Xinjiang. Okay, it goes through Aksai Chin. They have built the road. All right. Then you are coming with 303 Enfield rifles in your forward policy, and you suffer an embarrassment at the hands of the Chinese. The Chinese have come with automatic rifles, okay, and they give you a rollicking. So this is not divorced from context. We think 65, 71 are wars with Pakistan, 62 with China. No, 62 war is with China. Okay, that's Aksai Chin, which is gone. Yes, it's fought in the east as well, but the
Yes.
primary area of contention is not Arunachal, it's Aksai Chin. Okay, so Aksai Chin is lost. Few months later, the Pakistani hand over Shaksgam Valley to the Chinese. Okay, and a few months later, they launch Operation Gibraltar under Ayub Khan.
Hmm.
Okay, now the thing is, the only judgment call that Ayub Khan made wrong was he didn't expect Shastri because now Nehru is dead in '64. Okay, Shastri is prime minister, and he did not expect Shastri to cross the international border. It is because we crossed the international border. Okay, it is because we almost reached Lahore. We reached at least the Lahore International Airport. Okay, that then a ceasefire was declared, and then the Tashkent declaration happens. Then Shastri mysteriously dies. Okay, so lots of messy things have happened, but the bottom line is 62 and 65 are both conflicts in which Kashmir is the target. One
Yes.
side has been lopped off by the Chinese, and the Pakistanis are trying to finish the business which they started in '48. Okay, but they failed to do so because of a good strategic decision, a bold with gumption, okay, in the face of the international community, which Lal Bahadur Shastri do. Okay, but nonetheless, in the Tashkent agreement, you failed to resolve the problem.
Hmm.
Okay, again, you have the military advantage. Okay, you had the military advantage in 47, 48, you let go. You had the military advantage in 65, you let go.
Hmm.
Okay, then 1971. 1971 is an even more humiliating defeat for the Pakistanis. Okay, they've lost an entire wing of their countries.
Yes.
Pakistan has been liberated within 3 weeks. In fact, less than 3 weeks. Okay, from start to finish. Okay, 100,000 POWs have been taken. And then, of course, the infamous Shimla agreement, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto shows up. Okay, Benazir's father, Bilawal's grandfather, shows up in Shimla. Indira Gandhi is the prime minister. Okay, Indira Gandhi has done a very bold decision, okay, by going in to liberate Bangladesh.
Hmm.
But what does Zulfikar do? Zulfikar plays her. He says, look, you make me sign on whatever paper you want. Okay, I'll go back. They'll call me a traitor. They'll hang me and tear up this paper.
Hmm.
Okay. So we don't resolve the question of POK. Instead, we create the line of control. Okay. And so it remains 100,000 POWs, nothing, all handed back, no issues. Okay. And again, you're taking a strategic decision that, look, we went into the war trying to sort out, again, the context is different. The context is Bangladesh, which we today take for granted, has just been liberated. So you had
Hmm.
a major victory. So you're saying, okay, guys, we've done enough
For
for
now,
for
maybe.
now.
Yes.
Okay, we have bifurcated Pakistan, and that's going to leave a devastating blow to them. So we've done enough. This question we'll settle later, but settle later when? Okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
84 and between 84 and 87 is when we do operations to take over Siachen, and now we till date have a 365-day all year around permanent establishment to hold Siachen.
Hmm.
Remember, the LOC doesn't go through Siachen. It stops at Siachen because it's a glacier. Okay, so there is no demarcation over there. So
Right.
Siachen now we control. So 84 to 87, you handled Siachen pretty much. Okay, then 99 happens.
Yes.
Okay. Now 99, again the Pakistanis come in winter. Again the same tractors of infiltrators coming in small groups, occupying the heights because they've been vacated for winter. Okay. Then you wake up on a spring morning and find out that all your heights around Kargil, Dras, all of the Pakistanis have entrenched themselves. Okay. They've got not only machine guns, they've got food supply. They are there for the long haul. You fight them, you remove them. 4,000 Indian soldiers die removing them. Okay. But again you stop there. You don't go further. You just stop there. Now, again, the context is different. In 1999, this has happened a year, just a year after India officially becomes a nuclear power, after
Yes.
Pokhran. Okay, so the context is different. You have Bill Clinton, okay, getting all cheesed off. All right, oh my God, nuclear war, nuclear war, nuclear
Hmm.
war. So at that point of time, you're calculating this, and we've just tested the nuclear weapons, which is a big achievement for India. Okay, as long as we get rid of them, let's stop. So every time you just stop, you just stop, you just stop, and you don't end up solving the crisis. And that puts up in the context of where we are today, Devika.
Yes. So when we talk about where we are today, if you can just explain what really does Jammu and Kashmir look like, and what perhaps most people don't know is that, on the map, of course, it's very large, but as far as territories go, what India has currently is, very, very less. Gilgit-Baltistan takes up a huge chunk
Yeah,
of the
so
map.
in terms of geographical area between Aksai Chin, PoK is very small.
Yes,
Gilgit-Baltistan, Aksai Chin, there are large tracts of
very large.
territory. Okay,
Yes.
so officially uh, under India, there are 21 districts in Jammu and Kashmir. Okay,
Right.
these include Poonch, Mirpur, Muzaffarabad, and the familiar ones which you know, of Anantnag and Baramulla and Srinagar. You know these districts. The 21 districts, which is our official map. Now the
Yes.
Pakistanis have their own map.
Hmm.
Okay, there are 8 districts in PoK as far as the Pakistanis are concerned. Okay, and they have divided Gilgit-Baltistan into 14 districts. Okay, the population of Gilgit-Baltistan, and this is important for context, the population of Gilgit-Baltistan is just over about between 4 and 4.5 million people. Okay,
Hmm.
in context, the population of J&K is about 15.5 million people. Okay, uh, this entire region has a demography. Okay, it has a tribal belt. Okay, uh, and not only the tribal belt, but because once it was part of the Sikh Empire, okay, before Hari Singh, all right, it also has not only the Pashtuns, okay, Hunzas, which are the tribes, but it also has Jats, it has Gujjars, okay, it has Rajputs, okay, people of Rajput descent live in POK, okay, at least those who have left because the whole exodus of them went away
Hmm.
after 47, which is another Pakistani strategy at demographic change. The first
Yes.
person they gave Pakistani passports were to people from POK.
Hmm.
Leave because
Yes.
you leave, then somebody else will come over and take over. No, maybe the some Pashtun will come over and take over your property and your territory, and you denude the population for demographic change. So the old strategies that we've seen, done repeatedly, were done even then. So, in terms of the demographics, I mentioned the Hunza, the Pathans, the Sardozi tribes. Okay, then you have, of course, the Jats, the Rajputs. Okay, so the different ethnic, and then of course, Kashmiris as the people who we describe as speaking a particular dialect, which we call Kashmiri, would also occupy a part of that demography, or rather, what's left of it.
Talking about demography, we have often spoken, and again, once again, very complicated subject. A lot of people don't agree. But as far as special status then of Jammu and Kashmir goes, it's one thing that, okay, we fought a war, certain parts of it were lost to Pakistan, certain parts of it then got lost to China. For whatever reason at that time, as you mentioned, that the context is very important to understand around those wars. Why didn't we go in further? But at the end of the day, the parts that, of course, are with India, and rightly so,
Hmm.
we went ahead for many years with the concept of a special status.
Okay. You know, you can debate this, but there are certain facts that are very straightforward. When we liberated, or rather Karyappa and his forces went and liberated throughout the Pakistani invaders, then were ordered to stop. What is very strange, okay, if the entire contention was that Muslim Hindu,
Hmm.
okay, was the contention, the entire basis of partition was done on the basis of that, okay. The areas we liberated were the Kashmir Valley, was the Muslim majority areas.
Yeah.
The area we didn't go to was Mirpur, which I just told you. The entire population was massacred.
Hmm.
All the Hindus were killed and all the women were taken and sold as slaves in Rawalpindi. Okay. So we stopped incidentally at the areas which in fact had a sizable Hindu population. But we liberated. And then, of course, there's the deal between Nehru and the first Abdullah. Okay. In coming to an agreement that a special status will be accorded. Okay.
Yes.
Now, there has to be context. Okay. I want you to think of context that there are other things happening at this point of time as well.
Hmm.
All right. You just had the massacre of partition. You've not made your constitution. A constituent assembly is still sitting. Gandhi has just been assassinated. Okay. So it's not like the entire focus is simply on one thing. Okay. You have
Exactly. Yes.
problems in Hyderabad. You have problems in Junagadh. Okay. There are other problems also. All right. So in retrospect, it is of course easy to look, but some cardinal mistakes were made and some cardinal things which are facts that we liberated the part of Jammu and Kashmir which was Muslim majority. We stopped when it came to Mirpur and we drew a line. And the argument could be that grandfather Abdullah, okay, said that this is the part you want to liberate and don't go any further. Okay.
Hmm.
And you came together this deal. So, what's the bottom line in the conversation where we started this subject? So, we got enough overview now, so we understand where we are. Okay. Why are now at the present moment?
Yes.
Okay. You have to do everything possible to create the environment, okay, for a reintegrated PoK. So, what are you doing? You created this absurd situation of special status for Jammu and Kashmir. And what is special status basically means ghettoization and apartheid. Okay. That you are different, you are separate. In the name of autonomy, we are keeping you separate,
Hmm.
okay, because the local rulers want you to be kept separate, okay. Kim Jong Un wants the people of North Korea to be kept separate of the South, knowing full well that prosperity, diversity has come to South Korea, okay. He is not concerned with the prosperity and future of his people. He is considered concerned about the prosperity of his regime,
Yeah.
okay, of his dynasty, of his dictatorship. That's what the family has been concerned with now for 3 generations. Okay, so you're not concerned about what happens to the people. So in the name of special, you make separate. Okay, which
Yes.
means that Indian schemes don't automatically apply. A lot of Indian rules and regulations don't automatically apply. So you create an apartheid situation. Okay, you milk it. When you remove special status, you stop the apartheid. Okay, we've been speaking with Kashmiris who've just been able to travel. Okay, come to Delhi and say, wow, this is the rest of India. Okay, not really seen it. You have to see it to believe it. Okay,
Yeah.
so you remove special status. Okay, then the second step has to be to create economic prosperity. The central government in India, the Union of India, has spent 56,000 crore rupees. In context, that's about $7 to $8 billion in the last 3 years of outside investment into Kashmir for the betterment of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, the people, its infrastructure, and other things. You had the G20 take place. So you create all the things by very simply when we say what is the plan of PoK, if we do it step by step. One, check special status gone. Number two, you create the model in JOK, which becomes the envy for the model in POK.
Hmm.
Okay. We know the economic crisis that is taking place in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. They're in trouble. There is a food shortage. There is rampant inflation. Okay. They're out of everything and they're looking across the border and they're seeing that everything is available and plentiful. The lives are prospering. The schools are being set up. The roads are being built. The airports are being built. Heck, G20 meetings are now happening in Srinagar. Heck, even the clock tower is being rebuilt. Okay.
Hmm.
All these highways are coming up. Airplanes are arriving. Okay, the UAE is thinking of investments. The Saudis might
Saudis are thinking, yeah.
might come and invest. New shops are opening. Entrepreneurs are coming up. Now they're selling your shawls. They're selling saffron. This is going to become a wealthy place. And look at our poverty. Okay, we've mucked it up. So you create the obvious by creating wealth. It is in our interest, and it is in the interest of the people who live in the state. So these are obvious first steps, Devika. Then of course there are lots of others, and let's get into it. Let's discuss the logic and get to the point.
Okay, and in the beginning, you clarify that this is going to be a conversation about what can be done short of
Yeah,
the military aspect of a takeover
yeah.
of POK. So, getting into that, what do you think need to be the first few steps as far as the civilian front is concerned?
Okay, so What I don't understand is what are we waiting for? Okay, diplomatically now we have made a clear decision, and these are the clear decisions. We are not interested in this cricket diplomacy with Pakistan.
Yeah.
We are not interested in sending them dossiers. We're not interested in some, some bus yatra, this, that. We have no interest in talking to you. The only thing we want to talk about is when you will hand over POK back to India. Okay?
Hmm.
So you made the clear stance. Trade, we've been very clear about. I was discussing the other day with you that in the Pakistan economy video, that lack of bilateral trade with India costs the Pakistani economy $25 billion a year, okay? Which
Yes.
is 40% of their exports. If their exports would go up by 40%, which they're currently about 30, $40 billion, if they just did trade with India. So you denied them that, okay? But take it a step further. What is stopping us from issuing an ultimatum to Pakistan to hand over POK? You know they won't do it,
Hmm.
okay? But tell them to do it. We are expecting you to hand over POK. What is stopping us from doing that ultimatum? Take a step further, okay? I mentioned Major Brown. Sue the sue this man, okay, posthumously in British courts and in Indian courts for the traitor he was. And as a traitor, all his acts become null and void and illegal.
Hmm.
Okay? A person who was defying because the key parties were all British. Auchinleck, okay, Butcher as the army commanders, Mountbatten as Governor General, British citizen, heck, pretty very much part of the royal family. Okay, can't go higher
Yes.
than that. Okay, and Brown, who was given a medal for what he did. Other than strip him of his medal, okay, and have him declared a traitor. All right, which means that all his actions, including the handing over of Gilgit agency and putting the Pakistan flag, are illegal even under British law. Okay, what is stopping you from filing the case? Do it. So step one, step two. Okay, you need to do a genocide investigation for Mirpur and Baramulla. We just discussed it.
Yes.
Okay, the first-hand accounts have been recorded for living memory. We need to not only tell the story but investigate the story because you have to say what they did. Okay, they were not there spreading roses. They were there pillaging, arson, rape, burn, massacre, and genocide. That's
Hmm.
what they came for, and that's what this Pakistani invasion meant. It was a precursor of what Pakistan would become, and that's where Pakistan is right now. All right. Why just stop at economic trade boycott? Why don't you impose sanctions on Pakistan? Make it clear any major bank that wants a banking license in India, if it operates banks in Pakistan, sorry. Okay. You can go across certain sectors, okay, and do the same thing. At least do what you can. All
Hmm.
right. So sanction the Pakistanis. Don't the Americans sanction North Korea? Don't the Americans sanction the Russians? Yes, their economic wherewithal is a lot bigger than yours. It's 5 times bigger than yours. But it's only 5 times bigger than yours. You are 10 times bigger than Pakistan.
Yes.
Okay, India GDP at $4 trillion, or let's say $3.7 trillion. Pakistan GDP at $340 billion. You are 10 times bigger than Pakistan. Okay, so yes, you cannot impose as much sanctions, and yes, you can argue whether sanctions work or don't work, but at least it'll be legal havoc for a lot of these companies. We'll have to think, oh, do we really want to do business in Pakistan? Because India is where we want to be open our bank branches and not get bombed in Karachi, okay, or in Balochistan. So why don't we go ahead and do this? Okay, and more importantly, as now step number five, okay, support the Balochis, okay, which we've just about started doing. Remember Prime Minister Modi, on the Independence Day speech, ramparts of the Red Fort, spoke about Balochistan for the
Yes.
first time. Now you can see Balochis who are out there going to international agencies, activists in exile, who are going. We discussed in the context of Karina Baloch, what happened when she was assassinated in Toronto, in Canada. Okay, so support their voices in international forums.
Hmm.
Give them the platform to represent themselves and the atrocities that the Pakistanis are conducting in Pakistan. Okay, we've already discussed in the last video the economic crisis. So the ideal case scenario, okay, for the reintegration of POK into India without a shot being fired, okay, is the balkanization of Pakistan, which is engendered by an economic collapse. Okay, once Balochistan is independent, Sindhu Desh is independent, Pashtunistan is independent, rump state of Pakistan is left with West Punjab and Rawalpindi and Islamabad. Okay, and then POK gets reintegrated in India, and you can potentially do it without a shot being fired. I know there are complications. You have to consider what will the Chinese do and this and that, but at least you are pushing them into that direction, and they're of course happy to oblige because we know the Pakistanis can't run their own economy. We've had a long conversation on that already.
Hmm. What about for a long time we've also been running the Fill the Seats campaign.
Hmm.
One aspect that a lot of people don't know how there are seats actually frozen in the Jammu Kashmir Assembly.
Okay, so as the previous assembly stood, okay, 124 odd seats, okay, those 24 seats were kept aside
Hmm.
on the assumption that PoK would be reintegrated into India. Okay, here we are 80 years later. What are we waiting for? Okay,
Right.
so now when a new Jammu and Kashmir assembly is instituted by the Election Commission, for which the delimitation exercise is going on, and Devika, the work on this has already started.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's constitutionally complicated work. Okay, why is it constitutionally complicated? Because then you'll ask me, fill the seats.
Hmm.
Okay, but what are these going to be nominated members? Maybe. Even better, can they be elected members? How are they going to be elected members? You can't conduct elections in Muzaffarabad, Mirpur, can you? Well, you have 13 lakh, okay, 13 lakh refugees from PoK who are living here as displaced persons within
Hmm.
India. Okay, why don't they have a right to vote from their home territories? They are not displaced voluntarily, they were displaced forcibly. We know what happened in Mirpur and Muzzafarabad. Okay, so we have to come up, the Election Commission of India needs to sit down and come up with a confabulation, okay? Examine the kind of precedent they'll set. Yes, it's a precedent being set, but it's a precedent you should set, okay?
Hmm.
That is it possible that you get the right to vote from your area of ancestral domicile, okay? That applies to both the PoK displaced persons, PoK refugees, as well as to the Kashmiri Pandits who have been for 30 years been unable to have a voice in Kashmir because they can't vote in Kashmir. How are you expecting them to have voice in Kashmir if they, all of them have been scared off
Hmm.
because of death, rape, murder, and arson, okay, and robbery, okay? So when the Intifada happened, you removed them. So their ability to impact political affairs in Kashmir declined. So you bring these people back, okay? And the technical argument which the election commission has to sort out is, let's say, for example, you are registered to vote in Kolkata, you happen to be living in Delhi, okay? You can only vote from that particular polling booth in a polling center in your constituency in Kolkata, which your voter ID says you're registered for,
Yes.
okay? Which means you will have to fly back to Kolkata, okay, to cast your vote. All right? That's what the rule says. There is a concept of postal ballots available, okay? The next concept, which is the technicality that allows you to vote from your non-domicile region, okay, from your non-registered area. So you need to set up a commission that comes up with the technical legal requirements, make the amendments that are required, pass the laws that are required to do this, okay, and let these 13 lakh refugees vote. Devika, I want you to imagine the day, okay, when a new Srinagar assembly is formulated in Srinagar of the Jammu and Kashmir state, and the MLA from Muzaffarabad stands up to take oath of office on India's constitution. The MLA from Mirpur stands up to take oath of office on India's constitution. Okay, imagine when this happens, it is going to be momentous and is going to be extremely signaling. The others will then know, okay, that we can get democratic rights, which you know don't happen in quote unquote Pakistan occupied Azad Kashmir in Pakistan as a total, which has been a military dictatorship for most of its existence.
And what beyond that are we looking at? Let's say that yes, the people in exile, the chosen people come as representatives, the refugees choose them. What then happens? Are we looking at maybe setting up some sort of an administration in absentia? What are
Yeah,
we?
so Devika, imagine the day, it's like I said at the beginning of this video, okay? You have to follow a logical, step by step, common sensical approach, assuming this is going to happen, not thinking it may happen, but not really. Assume it's going to happen.
Hmm.
Okay. If it's going to happen, will you not require a civil service administration
Yeah.
to govern the area? Okay. Will you not require local politicians? You will require you will require the population that wants to be with you.
Hmm.
Okay, you can't go and occupy a population that doesn't want to be there. Okay,
Yeah.
the only way you find a population that wants to be with you, okay, is because they've seen the collapse of Pakistan economically and perhaps through balkanization.
Hmm.
Okay, they've seen the prosperity of Jammu and Kashmir, they've seen the rights that have been given to their own, the children of the mothers and fathers who are displaced from their own hometowns in Mirpur and Muzaffar. They see them that these people have gone to Srinagar, they've gone to Jammu, and they become prosperous. They have political rights, and they're doing very well for themselves. Heck, they sit in Delhi, okay, as members of parliament because there are
Yes.
5 to 7 seats in parliament also which are reserved for PoK. Fill those seats also. Give the Kashmiri Pandits a chance to have a voice in parliament. So there is logical stuffs that you can do. So what is stopping us from next year, say, that when we conduct our UPSC examinations,
Hmm.
okay, then we set up our cadres and we send them to training. All right. We will also then, when we are doing their appointments, also appoint the district magistrate, district collector, DC, DM for Mirpur, for Muzaffarabad. So create the civil administration in absentia, and you just take it to a logical next course of action. Once you create the civic administration, let, as officially they should be, all these areas come under the jurisdiction of the Srinagar High Court, which
Yes.
means if I'm living in Muzaffarabad, okay, and I have a civil or criminal matter, I should be able to appeal to the jurisdiction of the Srinagar High Court to resolve it, okay? Give the people the right to do so, and then see, you might be surprised by how many of these people who are stuck with Pakistan admire the jurisprudence, the civilization, the democracy of the Indian state and take up the offer. It is easier said than done, but that doesn't mean it won't happen or can't happen.
Hmm.
Maybe there will be thousands who will be wanting, who will be trying to petition the Srinagar High Court. The next logical step is, because the final court of appeal is the Supreme Court of
Supreme
India,
Court of India.
okay,
Yes.
that allow these people, if they are facing atrocities, if they're facing murders, if the Pakistani army is hounding them, allow them to appeal to the Supreme Court of India, because they are on Indian soil. They come under the jurisprudence of the Indian Supreme Court and the Srinagar High Court. So you create the civil administration in absentia. You create the legal recourse. Okay, the appellate courts is in absentia. Civil administration means everything from tax collectors to people who are going to think. Come up with a plan of action. What I would want to see is, okay, announcement to be made by the government of India, okay, that we are building these many bridges and these many tunnels and these many schools and hospitals. When PoK is reintegrated to India, I don't know when.
Hmm.
It might be next year, it might be 10 years from now. But when PoK is reintegrated to India, this is what we'll do. These are the roads we're going to build. These are the dams we're going to build. These are the number of schools we're going to build. This is the number of billions of dollars we're going to bring into the economy. These are the industries we'll set up. We will bring in these countries to come and invest. Let's have a plan of development. As we are developing J&K, let us create the similar plan and publish it, that this is what we intend to do to improve the economy of PoK once it's integrated. So create the civil administration, give them the legal fundamental rights. India's constitution applies there. Okay,
Yes.
so if you are in violation, if the Pakistani army is violating India's constitution, okay, on Indian soil, and it is Indian soil, we are clear about it. We're not ambiguous about it. We say it's Indian soil. Then those people should have the right to approach the courts in India. Okay, yes, is it going to be legally complex? Yeah, but we have the best jurists in the world. Let them figure out how it's going to happen, and you'll be surprised, Devika, by the number of people who are going to show up and do it.
At the same time, Risha, we've spoken a lot about also then identifying certain leaders, because ultimately none of this can really happen if there aren't already key crucial voices that are, that have been with us discussing and letting us know what is it exactly that they want.
Okay, so why is that important? Okay, so I mentioned the jurisprudence part. Okay, we can set up the special benches in the Srinagar High Court, in the Supreme Court of India to handle these matters on a specific case. Okay, but you need faces. You need people representing a different point of view. Right now, the spokespersons of PoK
Hmm.
is who? Imran Khan, Bilawal Bhutto, Shahid Afridi. Who are the spokespersons of PoK? Right. So let a person who has now become MLA of Muzaffarabad,
Hmm.
okay, put him on a plane and you say you go do the world tour. Go to Washington, go to London, go to Geneva, go to Brussels, okay, and say, hey, my this is my address from where my parents fled. Okay.
Hmm.
I now represent, having been voted by a democratic mandate of the other people who fled. Okay. So free world democracy, that's what we want to hear. Okay, here
Hmm.
I am, free world democracy. Okay. So I am the MLA for Muzaffarabad, and the Pakistanis are illegally occupying my city. Okay. They're occupying my district, they're occupying my town. Send them. Now, who are these people going to be? We have a individual who sits with us so often on NewsX, a chap called Rajiv Chunni. Okay, he leads a PoK displaced persons organization called SOS International. Okay,
Hmm.
he's for sure a future political leader. Okay, erudite voice, passionate about what he's doing. Okay, there's another individual who's living in exile called Senge Seren. We've
Hmm.
interviewed him several times. Okay, you can clearly see that this leadership qualities exist in people. There are people out there. You need to find them, encourage them, give them a platform. More importantly, give them an opportunity to be someone. Okay. representing their people, just like the Balochis are representing their people. Let them come and be part of the Indian system and represent these people. Why don't we create a parliamentary standing committee that monitors and discusses the affair of PoK, Gilgit and Baltistan? Let's create the parliamentary standing committee. Okay,
Right.
we are publishing the weather there. Let them be on a regular basis be mandated that the atrocities happening. The parliamentary standing committee's job is to make sure that these atrocities are being highlighted. Why can't the Jammu and Kashmir States Human Rights Association, okay, have PoK under its jurisdiction? If I can go to the courts, I should be able to go to the JKSHRC,
Hmm.
okay, and file criminal complaints against the Pakistani army. Give me the right to do it if you say that this is my soil. Why can't we then make provisions in India's budget when you're doing the Jal Jeevan mission, the PM Awas mission? Okay, when we are building the roads, when we are building the, you have to have a budgetary allocation. Okay, make it for PoK, so the person in PoK will know that the day I join reintegrate with India, this much money has already been earmarked to be spent on my locality.
Right.
They've already done it on the other side. Okay, what they've promised, they've already done. Billions have been pumped in
Hmm.
to create prosperity for us, and they've already put the money aside. They've already created the people who will immediately come in and do it. So it's an obvious step. Set up the plans. Okay, can't you get the Niti Aayog to create a plan for roadways, civil aviation, rail? Okay, what will the post integration infrastructural transportation blueprint of PoK look like? Let's put that plan out there. Okay, why can't we go then finally, okay, and even say that when a member of parliament, when the MP of Muzaffarabad stands in the new Sansad, okay, in Delhi, okay, and swears in an oath to the Indian Constitution, that he then becomes a union minister of the country. Okay, if the Abdullahs and the Muftis could become union ministers, why can't these guys be union ministers? Okay, why can't they be the ones who are greeting the dignitaries when they come for the, whenever the next G20 happens, an international summit happens, and receive them at the airport? Okay,
Hmm.
so you scalarly, okay, can do all these things. So you have to simply assume, and that's my premise, Devika, and we can roughly end it there, right? The premise is, imagine if J&K was being integrated tomorrow. Are you ready?
Right.
Okay. And if the answer is no, then what are you waiting for? Is your judiciary ready? Is your civil administration ready? Do you have a budget? Do you have a blueprint? Do you have a plan? Do you have a leadership? Okay. And if the answer is no to all of these things, create them. Logic, common sense, step by step.
Right. Absolutely. Rishabh, I wish we had more time. Just one last question though. What could be the possible reaction of Pakistan to some of these developments? Say we do have an administration in absentia, we do end up getting MLAs and MPs, and are we bothered by how they respond?
What are they going to do? Threaten us? Send terrorists? Try to lob grenades on the air? What they're going to do? Okay.
Hmm.
So the question is, what are you going to do that is going to be different than what is going on right now? Okay. The bottom line is, Pakistan is now going to be fighting a war on its western front. It already is. Okay. It's a hot war. It's not a cold war. The bottom line is, there is already a civil war happening in Balochistan. The bottom line is, there is an economic crisis. We spent an hour last week discussing exactly this.
Hmm.
The balkanization of Pakistan at some point of time is inevitable, because Pakistan as a nation state, this idea doesn't work. We've discussed this again last time. Okay. So somebody has to keep bailing them out. Okay. You need to be also not naive and say that yes, uh, in anything that you do, there are people who don't want you to do it.
Yeah.
Pakistanis obviously don't want you to do it. The Chinese won't want you to do it. Okay. The question is, what do you have of theirs? What is the leverage, and what is their cost to intervene?
Hmm.
Okay. Will the Chinese intervene? Okay. And if they do, what will be their cost? What is the nature of the intervention? Okay. But these are larger conversations. What I'm suggesting in the course of this video is, what is stopping you from taking these actions? I can tell you
Right.
what is stopping you from sending in. You have you militarily, you're capable of doing it anytime. Okay. It's strategically that you are stopping. Okay.
Yes.
Strategic considerations. Okay. What the Chinese will do, what the Americans will do, who will support you, won't support you. Okay. Militarily, you can do it. You'll have to do it as fast as possible, which means, like what happened in Bangladesh, you'll have 2-3 weeks.
Hmm.
Okay. It can't be a 3-year a 3 year attempt. Pakistanis will try to do exactly what they did tried in Bangladesh, is to delay you until international pressure can be brought. So you'll militarily have a less amount of time, but we proved it we can do it. Yes, the circumstances in Kashmir and are on the LOC geographically are more difficult. But like I said, that's a separate conversation. My premise right now is very simple. If if Jammu and Kashmir was to be reintegrated tomorrow morning by whatever means, okay, there was an epiphany the Pakistanis and the Kashmiris had, and they say we are signing over tomorrow. Please aa jaiye. Okay, are you ready?
Right.
The answer is no. So what do you need to get ready? You need to have a civil administration. You need to have a budget. You need to have monies. You need to have a plan. You need to have leadership. Okay, you have to have a jurisprudence system. So let's get all of them ready. Simple as that.
Okay. Well, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rishabh, for that really in-depth conversation. And we'll be sure to also put out the link for Brigadier Rajinder Singh's interview, in-depth telecast that we had done. We'll put that out in the description of this video. Hope you liked it. Please do like, subscribe, share this video as much as you can if you did find it interesting. And make sure to subscribe to Magna Indica on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you.